This is my submission for the portfolio assignment. I recreated this Blade Runner scene by using packs from the Unreal Marketplace. I used the pack Soul City, modular building asset, and abandoned factory. Um, Majority of what I did was to recreate the same type of lighting that they've used in my reference image. Um, so figuring out how I wanted to implement these reds, these greens, etc. And uh, to get this more worn out and feel, I found some tutorials on YouTube on recreating um, rain particle effects and this ripple shader. So I implemented those. And so the asset pack actually came with this cloth that moves. But what I did was I used the same um, functions that they had and implemented it on this wire and on these chains to the left of my scene. So there's just more of a wind, and it feels the scene just feels more active, I guess. And yeah, so there's fog that I've implemented over here and over here. There's some fog right here from these pipes. Um, And a major thing that I had to work on was how do I create the lighting for such a dark scene? So I decided to just use my normal BP Sky Sphere that's given with Unreal, and I um, gave the directional light actor as the light source. And so my light source, when I kept it at a really low value, 0.05, gave it a really high indirect lighting intensity because I wanted more bounces of lighting, and this creates global illumination. So I did that. And if I go back to my BP Sky Sphere, given the sun brightness as like 10 because it's just the moon, it doesn't really matter. It'll just look like a moon. Um, and what I did is I changed the zenith color, horizon color, cloud color, overall color, so the sky was a bit darker. But to be honest, it didn't like it. Just don't keep it too dark because you won't get enough light happening because your skylight kind of takes the and like your sky sphere and creates lighting based on that. So my skylight, on the other hand, I kept it at 0.5 and also a really high indirect lighting intensity, and it's using SLS captured scene. Um, and in light source, I gave use atmosphere, fog, sunlight, so it's giving lighting based on that. And this is kept as stationary, and my skylight is static because that's the kind of feel I was going for. I wanted more big shadowing coming from my skylight, and I used an exponential height fog to give me this um, depth effect that was going on. I've placed all these assets really far away from each other, so it kind of it gives this um, type of depth and look that I was going for. Um, I added these neon signs just to make it look more dystopian um, and cyberpunk Blade Runner feels. Um, yeah, another thing that I did was change the ambient occlusion value. So here I used ambient occlusion, and I changed this value occlusion exponent to 6 just so I get it gives a better contrast, and I changed this direct illumination occlusion fraction to 0.8 so I have more darker shadows happening between the two surfaces. And I also changed this distance to 300 because I just was tweaking values and I found this looked kind of right. Um, and over here in my light mask settings, I've given a static lighting level as 4. So if your static lighting level is 4, your indirect lighting quantity should be the when you multiply static level lighting scale with your indirect lighting quality, it should always equal to 1. That's like a tip to keep in mind. So that's why this is 4 and this is 0.2. My indirect lighting smoothness, I increased this to 1.2, and I wanted to get 10 bounces and 10 bounces in both of these, um, just for better lighting quality. And it's advised to do these at the later stages so build times don't increase, because you will have these really increase your build times. Um, and another thing I did was to get nicer ambient occlusion was in global post-processing volume. Oh yeah, I did change my exposure and stuff because this was the exposure that I wanted. I didn't want it to be too dark or too bright, so I went with 4 and 4. Um, and if I go to ambient occlusion right here, I've changed the values of ambient occlusion. So this is in post-processing. It's not baked in ambient occlusion. It's just how the post-processing um, gives you an ambient occlusion based on the edges. So this value, you can change it and you can visually see what's happening, but for the light mask settings, it's all baked in. Um, and yeah, all my spotlights and point lights are stationary because I wanted stationary volumetric scattering to go on. As you can see, yeah, I've given like 70 and stuff, so I got some of this volumetric fog happening right over here and here. So yeah, that's what I implemented. And so I guess another thing that I did was use reflection sphere captures all over my scene because I have so many metal things going on and I wanted correct reflections to happen on these metal surfaces and these reflective surfaces like the rain. So a tip to keep in mind is to place a lot of sphere reflection captures around and keep one larger reflection capture that covers your whole scene. So you can get accurate reflections. Um, and yeah, I kept all of my wires moving up, stuff movable, obviously, because you can't bake lighting. Oops, what did I just do? Yeah. And yeah, that's pretty much what I did for this portfolio piece. Try to create a very lively scene to give that feel of a Blade Runner dystopian environment. Yeah.